Now for our draperies and the wall behind, we want to set this light up. So I'm going to go in here and put some value here as well. So I'm just going to, this is my your 3, it would be your 3. I'm just going to put some value in here and a little bit up at the top here too. This is our shadow shape here in the corner, so I want to bring that down, but that will help to transition. Maybe just do that. That will help to transition and set up our light. And I can go in with my 5 and pinpoint some parts of this as well, so that helps to set up our light. And the drapery is going to cast a little shadow here too, so I may as well pull that out. I'll start with my 1. If you're not certain about how something's going to look, start light and move yourself toward the, and probably better to do one side at a time. So I'm starting here. I wet the paper with my 1 and I'm putting in the 3 now. I'm moving from the 3 to the 5, and I'm doing less and less as I get toward the center. I'll try a little more 1. My 1 is not putting out very much anymore, so I'm using less and less of it. So I'll just throw a little bit of 3 up here, so I get a feeling of that moving forward. Then this part, this is, remember with our shadow, this part is mostly in shadow. I've got this little tassel here. So now I haven't used the 7. I'm saving the 7 till the very end. I may want to use some, so I'll keep that for my shades probably. And my light fixture is mostly light, but I'll just run a little bit of value down one side here as we talked about. So I think she should have a little bit of value here to help her out. Whatever pops into your imagination to do, if it's going to help set something up. And she's important because she's sitting on the chaise, so everything we do to make her interesting will probably help. Also, I should put a little bit of value on her face, maybe. Other draperies, I'm gonna wet it again with the 1, because I'm going from dark over on this side to light over on the other. And I didn't put as much hatching on this side, so I'm intending not to make them exactly the same. That's a good idea. Even though the whole thing is quite symmetrical, my plan is always to give the eye more than the same thing to see all the time. So now I've got the 5. What would be 5 for you? And I'll do a little less. So what I like about these Prismacolor, this wedge shape, you can use the point. And looking at this section, something I don't like is how light the drapes are. So I'm going to take a marker and go right over all of that white. I'm going to start with the 3. If you're not certain, start with the lighter one. I may have to go all the way over to the 5, but I'm going to start with the 3. It's competing with the sofa, the chaise. So I'm just going to see what that looks like. And I think I can go even darker. So it just means that this is a darker fabric than the fabric that's used to upholster the chaise. And that might help to set it up. I like that better. So there's not a lot of contrast. So the other thing that makes something stand out is contrast. So I'll put a few little more. And texture and pattern, they help as well. She's sitting right on the sofa, so she is important to it. So I might go in and put her a little bit darker, maybe just her top. So we made all that plan, but things, once you get started, things begin to change. So I think she should go completely dark. So maybe this tassel is dark as well. Okay, so now we've got something. And on the parts that are a little bit darker for her, I'll go a little bit, put a second coat. Cushion, I think I'm going to leave it relatively light because it's working already as something that's light. As much as we tried to plan everything out, you still have to stop and think about everything as you go along. There, that'll help to set her up. I'm going to put my 30 in here, my 30 and my 50. Rather than use my 70 over here, I'm going to try just using the 30 and the 3 and the 5 would be 3 and 5 for you. So it's not going to be too deadly. And over here, although I planned for this to be a B value with 3 and 5, I'm just putting the 3 in and seeing if I can get away with that. So you don't want it to have the same contrast as this. And this item, I'll put 5 over on this side. That's a mirror in there. And 3 over on this side. Okay, and then I'll just throw some, just put a little bit in. And our corner, we want to throw a little bit of color in our corner. You don't have to follow the same direction as your crosshatch, but I do believe this is better, that I kept to this with the most contrast using the 7 over here, and this with less contrast. So I'm even using the 3 now inside here. So I've got all this cross hatching. I don't have to go in there with the darker marker. Again, saved by the hatching. I do want a bit of a dark floor, so I'm using the 5 over here for my floor, but I'm letting it go to nothing as I come forward. And we do have a little shadow at the bottom here, so I can throw in a little bit of shadow so that the center of the wall is getting most of the light. I can again use the 3 for most of this and not use too much of the 5 or none of the 7. I think if I keep away from the 7, I'll be all right. Put some 3 up in here. And maybe wash the front of it with the 3 as well. Might just put the whole thing in with the 3. So it's there, but it's not important. That might be the best solution for that. And keep all the focus around our chair. Might even go inside there. That might work too. Maybe even this whole wall. And I'm using a light hand, of course. I don't want to. That was the 3, just to knock that back. And that darkness of her dress, I think, is really helping And these draperies are framing that space. Might be an argument for doing this dark as well, but I don't think I want to do that. If I do, we may not see this at all. The temptation is to use the same pattern that's on the carpeting, but that might be too much of the same thing. So I'm using a light hand. And toward the light, I'm not using quite so much. I'm starting off where I know it will be darkest and bringing it across. I can't really reach it, so I'm sorry if it looks a little wild here. And I can always go a little bit darker generally down here, as if there was a tree or branches out there, just to